सबको मिल गया? I've put a link on weekend also.
This is a very beautiful song written by Sri Rupa Goswami. He is one of our 6 Goswami में से एक Goswami है. उन्होंने song essence it's about let my mind be attracted to Krishna. मनो भगवान से आकर्षित हो. So I will explain in 2-3 minutes the main theme of it, what it says. So here is explaining that my mind is like a bee. It's like a bee, and it's always searching after some nectar in the world. But what I found was the greatest nectar could be found only at the lotus feet of Krishna. That's why it says, Pada Pankaja Makarande. Krishna, your lotus feet is something which is like a great nectar. And even Krishna wants to taste that nectar. Because there is one pastime which comes in the Purana. That's a pastime of Markandeya Rishi. So if you have seen one of the pictures of Krishna where he has kept the right foot and the toes, the thumb of the right foot in his mouth, and is lying on a leaf, the banyan leaf. Have you seen that image anywhere? It's a very famous image. So the Acharyas says, why does Krishna do like that? As a kid, if he is lying on the leaf, why is keeping that thumb, the toe, this mouth? So the explanation comes actually that Krishna himself has heard many times from his devotees that there is nectar in his lotus feet. So what that nectar is, that's what Krishna is trying to get estimate of. But he didn't got it. That estimate he didn't got it. What is so nectarian about the lotus feet of Krishna? So Krishna has to come in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to taste that nectar. Because only a devotee can relish the nectar of Krishna's lotus feet. And this prayer, what Rupa Goswami has written, is actually emphasizing this aspect only. So there are only 3 stanzas in it, and the 3 stanzas, very deep meanings has been said by Sri Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami has been said to be the Rasik Acharya of all the Goswamis and all the devotees of Krishna. Because whatever writings he has written, those all writings primarily carrying the Rasa Tattva. And Rasa means nectar. And we all are searching after nectar, right? Because the nectar is the essence of life. Whether it comes in the form of music, food, traveling, anything you name it. So that nectar is very spiritual in essence, but it has to be understood and realized through the parampara. That's what Rupa Goswami is going to explain. Okay? So we are going to sing this. Krishna Deva
Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Vande.
Manamanasa madhu paramarpayanita
Manamana Samadho
Manasa madhu paramarpayanita
Manamana Samadho Paramarpayanita Pad Pankaj Makaran. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Mande. Krishna Deva Bhavantam Mande.
Samadhishu vidirapi pashyati.
Samadhishu vidirapi pashyati.
Samadhishu vidirapi pashyati.
Yadapi samadhishu vidirapi pashyati. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for coming. Friday evenings are meant for many purposes. You all have chosen a different purpose from what the rest of the world chooses. Thank you very much. Today is a special session, of course. Before we begin, firstly, my apologies. We kept him occupied, so he couldn't come here 15 minutes earlier. So thank you for being on time. I'm sorry for keeping you waiting. So a little bit about Vaikuntha Prabhu before we begin. So Vaikuntha Prabhu did his BTech from NIT Allahabad, and while doing his BTech, he came in touch with the devotees. Prabhu, correct me if I'm wrong. He came in touch with the devotees, and that's how his spiritual journey started. From what I've heard from others, he was always very inquisitive, always had big questions like all of you here. And those questions kept getting answered. Eventually, he worked for 2 years as a software engineer. And like it happens to most devotees who find answers, he decided to take up Krishna consciousness full time. And since then, he's been a full time monk. Uh, he's not only been spiritually astute, spiritually experiencing growth, but also in his service has been recognized by all his leaders. That's why at such a young age he started getting more and more responsibilities. He was the youth director at ISKCON Punjabi Bagh. ISKCON Punjabi Bagh has many bases under it, many youth bases where young boys come and live. There's many colleges under it. He was handling, managing all of that. Not only within Delhi, but outside Delhi also, many towns in Punjab, Himachal, it was all happening and growing under him. And then recently, he was asked to take up even more responsibility. And now, as of today, he's the co-president of a local temple. It's called Punjabi Bagh, managing 2,000 families and many full-time monks and a new temple construction. He's taking care of many responsibilities. So, is that good? Good enough? Maybe you all are running some Fortune 500 companies. So he's here for the first time, but normally if we want someone to come back again, we encourage them by loudly chanting for them. So before the session, let's loudly chant, and then after the session, we'll again chant. Okay? So with me, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. And as they say, Ek aur ek gyara, who is not Kannada, he's come with Krishna Gopinath Prabhu from his home in Faridabad. So we welcome him also and we thank him for giving us. Krishna Gopinath Prabhu.
I was looking for MC for many days. And finally, I think the show is over. Thank you so much for your kind words. And it's Sanjay who called me. And I'm there to serve all of you in very different platforms also. Especially requested me to come on this Friday. I'm very grateful to be on most of you. Most of you know, most of you, but most of you don't know. And it's nice to be here. It's giving me also a lot of family feeling with all of you here. I'm not feeling like I'm giving any official any class in a temple or any official program somewhere outside. More of a family feeling is here. So thank you for all coming today. And it's really grateful for me to speak and share something from the Bhagavad Gita and the song which I just. A small prayer and then we'll start.
शुभादाय कृष्णवृषाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचंड देवी श्री श्री
सदा सिंधुदेवचं पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य
प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
Hare Krishna. So again, I will thank Anunay. Actually, before my coming also, he sent me an audio note of 5 minutes explaining the whole group and what all of you have been studying throughout these weeks. So I thought to just continue with that thing only. That's why I chose this prayer. So you told me like you are studying the sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? And the verse is 8, 9. So, 8, 9. So what I thought, like something I will take from Gita, then one story from Bhagavatam, and then some practical points to carry away to home. Okay? So I'll keep it really short, but we'll try to cover it. So when you read in the Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter, you must have read through a concept called Yoga Arudha and Yoga Arurukshu. So I will start my class with a question. Who will explain me what is Yoga Arudha and what is Yoga Arurukshu? Anybody can explain. I think a long and elaborate discussion should have been there. Yes, sir. What's your good name first? God, yes, sir.
And I might mess up
Ah, nothing. You can be free with me.
with the first term stands for who's a beginner on the spiritual ladder. There are different marks. And the second word describes the person who's on the highest rung of the spiritual ladder.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Nothing to mess up. Perfect. So yes, explained it beautifully. So in the yoga system, yoga means very simple. Yoga means to add or connect. And there are different yogas. Karma yoga, then you have a dhyana yoga, then you have dhyana yoga. And dhyana yoga is also said to be Ashtanga yoga also. So when you talk about yoga, no, it is something which is connecting with the supreme. And there are different ways to connect. By your occupation you connect, by your knowledge you connect, by your meditation you connect. And in the world you will see this yoga word itself is quite propagated to a certain degree, merchandised, and to a certain degree you will see practiced also by many individuals around the world. But actually speaking, yoga means it's the connection to Krishna. That's the sum and substance of the term called yoga. And when you talk about Dhyana Yoga, it's something connected with the meditation, to connect with that. So the two terms why I pulled it out was Yoga Arudha and Yoga Arurukshu. The Yoga Arudha means that you are just trying to climb over the ladder. You're climbing over the ladder, right? Arudha means in Sanskrit it says you're just climbing something. That's called Arudha, Yoga Arudha. So Yoga Arudha means you're climbing the ladder. And once you have actually reached the top of the ladder, that's called Yoga Arurukshu. So when you go to the next verse of the same verse, it says Yoga Aruna means that to the level you have to control your mind from where you connect to the Supreme. And Arurukshu means you have already achieved the topmost level. The mind is in a very stabilized condition. And now the second stage starts where you got to connect with the Supreme. So two different things are there. One is first you try to practice the control, and once you have control, the next step comes how to engage that same mind into the Supreme. Yoga Arudu and Yoga Arukshu. Very important. Because as being a bhakti yogis, we are also bhakti yogis. We are also yogis. You should not remember this term. Once I saw in a Mayapur one devotee on his shirt, I would say t-shirt, it was written that we are also yogis. And then the double quote it was bhakti yogis. So we are also yogis, but we are bhakti yogis. So yes, we are also yogis. So how does that process applies to us? Because if you read the sixth chapter, as you will go ahead in the sixth chapter, you'll see so many details of the Ashtanga yoga. By reading only, you will give it up. I cannot practice it because the degree, the details have been mentioned by Krishna. First of all, you have to go to the secluded place. Seclusion means you have to go to some mountain where nobody is there with you. It has to be a forest, and it has to be some place which is pure, somewhere near a holy place, and whatnot. Very details are there. Then you have to practice celibacy. Then you have to learn how to sit. The postures are mentioned there, and then how to control your breath, and how to control your life. And so many details. If you just go into it, na, what I personally felt when I read it first time when I was a student, when I read the Gita first time in my life, I thought this thing I cannot practice. It's impossible. Arjuna said this at the end of the sixth chapter that it's very difficult for me to control. That a very famous word he said, no? Chanchalam mana Krishna Balavadi
Pramati.
Parmati Balavadidam Tasyaham Nigraham Manne Vayureva. He says Vayureva Sadushkaram. It is very, very difficult. Even the moving wind can be controlled. Controlling the mind, it's not so easy. And you must have realized it as soon as you just pick up the beat bag and chant. We all know what happens after that. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. My personal reflection is even if 10, 15 uh, beats continuously, if you can chant, that's the success of the day. I'm telling you myself. It's 10, 15. I cannot think about it, I cannot aspire for it to go for 108. It's a big thing. Even in the Yoga Shastra, sorry, thank you. So even in the Yoga Shastra, it's mentioned that if you go to 48 minutes, 48 minutes, like it's a one muhurata. If you go for one muhurata, 48 minutes continuous meditation on something, huh? It's called samadhi. So it's a big achievement. If we can go for just one complete muhurata, 48 minutes, and non-stop, the mind at one place. It's not so easy to do that. But nonetheless, it's difficult. The yoga process as described by Krishna is difficult, and even Arjuna didn't accept it. What Krishna said in the end is, he says, Yoginam api sarvesham bhagavate antaratmanam shraddhavan bhajate yomam samayeta tamohata. This is an interesting thing. He says, Yoginam api sarvesham bhagavate antaratmanam. Out of all the yogis, the best one is one who engages himself in the practical devotional service. And Krishna says that with the word called bhajate. So if you read the purport of Srila Prabhupada, no, their purport is starting the purport with the word called bhaj. And bhaj means, he explains that bhaj is a word in the Sanskrit, bhaj dhatu it says. And he says it's a worship which is very deep in nature. That's why we say sometimes the devotees are doing bhajan. But when we go to Dham, we say, this is the bhajan kutir of so and so Goswami and so person. So bhajan means it's a very deep absorption. But absorption cannot come just by strongly forcing the mind to focus on something. It has to be aligned with all the ecosystem. The intelligence has to be engaged. Once false ego has to be engaged, and ultimately one's thoughts, feelings, all these things has to be engaged. Then actually this bhajan starts, and it's very tough. Literally speaking, very tough to do that bhajan. How it goes for us? Primarily, it has been recommended like our thoughts, our feelings, our desires has to be gradually rooted into the lotus feet of Krishna. And we sang just now, the bhajan we sang, Krishna Deva Bhavan Tanavande Manamanas Madhu Karmarpaya Nija Adapankaja Purnakarande. So we know that yes, that Krishna can give us the real nectar in life. And sometimes we feel also, to be very true, at least in the initial days we feel that. When we come into Krishna consciousness, we feel some bliss is there. At least Kirtan we relish it, the Prasadam we relish, the devotees we have a good time with them. When we take the darshan of the deities, then we relish something. So some bliss is certainly there. Otherwise, we won't be having the Friday night here with all of you. So we all are here, that means that we have tasted something in our life. And we have to really look forward also now. There is something more. It's just like any salesperson, when he comes, when he gives you a sample. This is the product, and I'm giving you some sample of it. Just try to taste it, just try to have the experience of it. And over the period of time, when you see yes, the product is nice, the next step, what he will do is, he will give you the bill. Yeah, he will say, oh, this is the cost you have to pay. And after that, the difficult journey starts. And difficult journey. I will literally say it's a good and difficult journey for every one of us to go through. The price. For that, the price is for us, Prabhupada has recommended very small things. The 16 rounds chanting daily and four element principles that we have to follow. But honestly speaking, that's also not easy because year after maintaining that is also a big challenge. But if you understand the philosophy nicely now, if you go to another level, the level of intelligence, there the conviction comes that come on, this is the best path we should follow. But philosophy we get to know that. Now I'll tell you one story. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it comes in the 11th canto and describes very nicely the cause of our happiness and distress in life. What is the cause of happiness and distress? And you will be surprised to know many philosophers in the past have tried to really gone deep into that aspect. Where does the happiness comes from? And why does the distress comes in our life? Huh? Where the happiness comes from and where the distress comes from? What is the ultimate cause of it? And these two things obviously comes in our life. It's like day and night. As the day goes, the night comes. As the night goes, the day comes. That's the way the thing flows in life, right? Nobody can say in this world that I'm always happy. Nobody can say I'm always distressed. There's always a mixture which comes in life. So similarly, in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11 canto, 23rd chapter, there is a story of Brahmana called Avanti Brahmana. Avanti is a country, is a state, with Jain. If you know it, Avanti. So there, this Brahmana was a very rich person, and he was rich, but unfortunately he was miser also. He never wanted to spend his money. So what he used to do, as much as he can save, he used to save. He was so miser that he never used to use his money for his relatives also, and never for his own self also. Always that money he wanted to save it for some future. Now in that context, there is a beautiful description comes about money. It says how the money brings 15 faults in any individual. And very detailed it is described there in different words it has been described. I'm not going to elaborate that part. But if you're interested, you can read that chapter, 11th chapter, 23rd chapter. So there it explains what is the harm with the money is. But somehow something happened in his life that the money was lost. The reason is not mentioned, how it went, but due to certain arrangement of the divine will, it happened that he lost all his money. So once he lost all his money now he was a pauper on the street. And once Prabhupada also explains in his own life, Prabhupada has also experienced that as he was earning in his Grasta life now, Prabhupada has his own chemical factory, he was a manager in one of the big chemical industries, and he set up his own factory. But once he lost all money in his life, once the theft was there, another time the fire broke out. So when he was penniless, at that time, Prabhupada realized the nature of this world. Now nobody asks you. Because still the person has the money, people ask you. After the money is gone, nobody will ask you. Even the family rejected him. That was the experience what Prabhupada really felt. If you read one of the poems of Prabhupada, the Vrindavan Days, that was the poems which Prabhupada wrote much before actually he took the sannyas. Uh, And it's a very beautiful poem. If you can get it on the net, now, just read it. And he's saying all the glories, all the fames, all the bright days of the life were only till the time when I had the money with me. Once it's gone, everything seems to be very uh, not so. I'll say it's a more of a let's say gloomy. It doesn't appear to be so brightening. And he describes all his emotions very beautifully there. Srila Prabhupada. Now this person, Avanti Brahman, what happens after he has lost everything now he has no shelter in his life. Now when he has no shelter in his life now, what he does is he just roams around the world. And when he roams around, gradually he realizes that this world is not a fit place for a gentleman to stay. That is relation he got the latest in his life. But slowly, what happens? He became very determined to take a sannyas in his life and just to renounce everything in life. He was committed for it. He took the sannyas. And after sannyas, one of the things is the sannyas happens for any person now. One of the things which is told to him is like till the time we have engaged our body and words in the service of Krishna. Now the next step we have to do is we have to engage your mind in service of Krishna. This is one of the personal reflections of the Guru Raghunath Swami Maharaj, where he was giving one of the classes. I remember that was in 2012. He gave a class in Radha Parsadi temple east of Kailash. And he was sharing that when my sannyas happened, like last year was the 50th ceremony of his sannyas, if you remember, 2025. 1975, he took the sannyas, December. Three devotees took, so one of them was Rukna Swami. So he was sharing that when I took sannyas, Prabhupada gave me the most difficult instruction of my life. And that instruction was, Prabhupada says, now I have given you this sannyas danda. Now you have to follow what Krishna said in the Gita. When he quoted the words, Man manavo bhakto madhyaji mam namastu. Now engage your mind in service of Krishna. That's very difficult. Even after sannyas, it's too difficult to engage the mind because mind is too flickering. But Krishna consciousness is such a beauty now. It can keep your mind just like a tamed animal because of the power of Krishna. So the words it comes in the Srimad Bhagavatam 4th canto, and this has been explained by Sanat Kumar, the four Kumaras to Raja Prabhu. He says, Pankaj Palash Vilash Bhaktya Karmashayam Gatitam Granthi Santa Vannaritmatayo Yatayo Piruddha Shruto Ganastamaranam Bhajavasudeva. Very beautiful verse. It says, as the yogis and the gyanis, they have to struggle a lot with their mind. If you have seen such practitioners, literally, you will never want to enter that path. I have personally seen the Gyanis path when I was young. I'm basically belonging from a city called Varanasi, and that's headquarters of Mayavad. And I have seen very closely these people. So one of the places I went, my mother took me. She was quite devoted to many people, in the sense of usually India, all gods are equally respected. So one of the ashramas I went, it was Shankaracharya's ashram, and I saw brahmachari there in my life first time. And I was shocked to see the level of austerity they practice and what we practice. It's quite different actually. That was a cold winter day. And on the cold winter day, they were sleeping on the marble floor with a very thin mat, and I think that mat is was insufficient to even stop the cold. He was sleeping on that, a very thin quilt which he was keeping on himself, and there were some uh, chana, kala chana grams that was soaked in the bowl, and that was his breakfast. And he had some Vedanta Pothi. He used to keep in front of them, and they used to read from the Vedanta. And it's very difficult. And such a cold season and such an austerity they used to do. What this verse says, what I recited right now, it says that the Gyanis and the Yogis have to subdue their mind and senses very strongly. And force is को रोकना पड़ता है. The force they have to stop it. It's not natural for them. They have to forcefully try to stop them from going here and there. But for devotees of Krishna, it's not so. It says, "Pada pankaj palash vilash bhaktya," because the devotees of Krishna enjoy so much in the nectarian pastimes of Krishna that they hardly have to think about forcing their senses and mind to stop going away from Krishna. It's like a very natural flow. As you know, in the river when you flow now, whenever you go into the river, it's on a full flow. It's very difficult for you to come to the sides also. You are just on the center. If you go to the Rishikesh, try the rafting there. So it's very difficult for you to even go on the sides. Just on the middle, you have to just flow with the whole flow. That's with the Krishna consciousness. It is so natural and so flowing now. Once you get deep into it now, it just takes you away one by one, one by one, one by one. That's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Now, what I'm saying was, now this person, Avanti Brahman, when he took the sannyasa, and he was going through so much trouble, even the trouble has been explained. Once he was taking his meal, he was taking his meal on a riverside. And when he was taking his meal, that time what happened? Some people came, they were abusing him, throwing stones at him, spitting on him. And even the worst thing happened was when he was about to take his meal, somebody urinated on the plate itself. And he cannot eat. Such a struggle life he went through. And when he went through, he simply tolerated. That's the one of the things the mind has to go through. A tolerance. And the tolerance was such a peak, at such a peak it was happening now. He just was meditating why these things are happening with me. And who are actually the cause of my distress in my life. And he was introspecting. What was the cause of my distress? And when he was introspecting, then he says a very beautiful words of Bhagavatam. I would recommend if you can just get it to now, you can just remember it, note it down, write it into the. It's such a hope-giving message at many times in our lives. And that is 11:23:42. Very interesting word Bhagavatam. 11:23 chapter verse number 42. यं जनो में सुख दुख हेतु न देवतात्मा ब्रह्म काल मनः परं कारणम् आनन्ति संसार चक्रं परिवर्तयति. He identifies six things, six, seven factors he identifies. That these six, seven factors are not the cause of my distress. The first thing he identifies, Nayam Jalo Mesopukupete. Normally, whenever distress comes in our life now, we normally find a scapegoat. That this person is responsible, that this person is responsible, that this person is responsible for it. We just want to find out something who is responsible for our distress. No, it happens with everyone. The same. That includes me also. It happens. We try to find out somebody is there who is the cause of distress in my life. Except me. Except me, everybody else is the cause of distress in my life. So he says, Nayam Jalomen Susadukkharite. So these people are not the cause of my happiness and distress. Then he says, Na Devata. Sometimes it happens when we go through Discover Yourself sessions. So there is explained that we have three types of kleshas, right? Adhyatmic, Adi Bhautik, Adi Devi. So when we hear about this Adi Devi klesha, so we get to know, okay, this is because of Indra it's happening. It's because of the Surya it's happening. It's because of the Vaikuntha it's happening and whatnot. All these 33 crore people are actually behind me. Because of them, I am getting this distress in my life. If they would not have been there, my life would have been very peaceful. So Adi Brahman says no, not Deva. Another thing he says is Atma. Now somebody can say, actually, my cause of my distress is my soul itself. And myself. I am myself the cause of my distress. Because I made the mistake. I came from the social world. I revolted against Krishna. So that's why this soul is centered on this. And so many things are there to philosophize about the distress. But he says, no, 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 no. Atma, why you are bringing the poor soul into the picture? It is also not the cause of the distress. Nadevata, Atma. Then it says, Karma. This process is also there, and we have heard many times because we have done something bad in the past. So that is what is coming up in the future. This famous in Bible you have heard, now as you sow, so shall you reap. That's why we have sown something in the past, and that's what's keeping in the future or in the present. And even there is a verse, Satyanukampas Samikshama Vatmakam Tadva Gida Bahubir Vidadan Namaste Jive Samukti Padesaya. That's a beautiful verse of the prayers of Brahma. It says, Satyanukampa Susamikshama Bhunjane Vatmakam Vipakam. Because of the past we have done something of which the present we are suffering. But he says, Amati Brahman disagrees with Brahma. He is not in opinion with the Brahma. Because Brahma spoke in 10 canto, I am speaking 11 canto. So I am giving a better version of what I have spoken in the past. He is giving a better version of it, that is also not the cause. So karma is also not the ultimate cause. Then he will say, okay, come on, then time is the supreme. So Ram has also said in his prayers, that time is the supreme factor, my dear Lord Nrsimhadev, because of which we have been crushed by the force of time. Very beautiful words of the seventh canto comes. So time will be the factor because of time we are suffering. He says, no, not the time also. Then say, come on, somebody have to find the scapegoat. Now, who is there then? When somebody can say astrology, I have missed actually. I have better need to read some astrology. He's going to tell me where is my Rahu, where my Ketu, my Shani is standing right now. I have to show him which house he's actually sitting there. And from which house he's glancing and putting all the troubles in my life. So they're also not there. So all these factors have been totally omitted and rejected by Prabhu. He says, "Manaham Paramakaranam Namanti." He says the prime and the supreme cause of all the happiness and distress is our own very dear mind. Yoga is the platform on which the material creation exists actually. What this world is, it's all within our mind only. And any two people will have a two different perspectives about the world. I can see the world in a different perspective. He can see a different one, and you all can see in a different one. And it's a different way how we interpret the situations in life. So normally, any motivational talks, if you see, or any good philosophy you see, they normally address on the concepts called prejudice, perceptions, or paradigms. And they are very, very famous words which they use. And they try to explain that because it's the paradigm shift you have to bring in your life. When the paradigm shift is there, then you will be able to understand what is the true happiness which you are missing in life. And you also think, that's the thing I am actually missing, the paradigm shift. Because we have also gone through many training sessions within ISKCON only. And there is a very one famous author of the book, Stephen Covey. That's the Seven Habits, right? A very famous book. So one of the sessions we are going through. The whole session was on this concept only, paradigm shift. Only you have to work on this paradigm shift. You have to just try to change your perspective in life. And then only you are going to be successful in your life. Even in the business circles also. Any strategy or anything, if it's not working, best of the trainers when they come now, and he's HR trainer, so he knows best. So how you train people is just about the paradigm shift, what the whole world is basically all about. And that's what the same thing here, Avanti Brahman is saying. That it's the mana. And it's a big science actually. If I go in detail, there's a lot of words we can say. But because of limitation of time, I won't go in that detail. I just want to go to some practical points now. So that's mana param karanama mananti sansara chakra parivartate. It's because of this mind only a person has to take the birth again and again in this world. And we know this concept in the Vaikuntha 8 chapter also. No? Yamim Vapiswaram Bhavam Tanispantato Levam Sattam Niveti Kaunteya Sada Bhagavat Bhavata. Because of that mind only, the person has different impressions. That different impressions make us go into one life, into another life, into another life, like that. So now, what Prabhupada has suggested for us is very, very important. So few things I will tell you from Prabhupada past times. So Prabhupada was very practical in his approach. He knew that the process of the Gyanis and the Yogis won't work. And it won't work, it's not say it won't work for few individuals, it won't work for anyone actually. Because in the Kali it's very difficult for a person to actually completely engage his mind and senses in the processes like Jnana and Yoga. But for Bhakti, it's quite easy, it's quite possible. So, many, many pastures are there. I'll tell you one. What happened once is that there was a very famous yogini. She was called as Ma Yogini in Calcutta. And she came with, it is mentioned in the same book we are reading, Transcendental Diary of Harishwara. So you will read it, very, very beautiful story. So there it explains when this Ma Yogini came to Kolkata, from Kolkata to Mayapur to meet Prabhupada. So Prabhupada was in his room. If you know, if you've seen Mayapur, Prabhupada room, first floor, that was the Lotus building. So that was the first building which was made in Mayapur. After that, there was Chakra building, and then gradually whole Mayapur developed. So on the first floor, Sri Prabhupada was in his room. That Ma Yogini came along with his two, three disciples, and their proposal was they wanted to bring out a movement for establishing the world peace. So they are working on the vision of bringing the world peace. So they wanted all the spiritual leaders to come together. And they wanted all of them to come together and hold a massive program to bring the world peace. So she came, she met Prabhupada, and she proposed that we want such a um, peace program for the whole world. Now, what happened was, Srila Prabhupada respectfully greeted them, let them have the seat, and then hurt her whole proposal. But somehow Prabhu's way of dealing was very unique, and he knew how to deal with whom, literally speaking. What Krishna has given him the transcendental intelligence, he literally knew whom to deal in what way. And when this person, the Yogini Ma came now, at that time Prabhupada had such a transcendental intelligence, she gave her an analogy, an example to explain about the peace of this world, a so-called peace of this world. He says peace is not possible, Prabhupada said. Even if you try hard, you cannot bring peace into the world. And this is the history. Even the world has failed in this regard. Because when the World War One happened, and the Peace of Nations, right? League of Nations that was made, and then they failed. Then World War Two happened. The United Nations was made. And after the United Nations was made, so many fights already happened. And recently, only India-Pakistan war has happened, 71, right? So don't think about peace. But she was like adamant on it. She said, no, we should give a try. We should give some try and try to find out some way to bring the peace in the world. And Prabhupada is explaining very calmly, coolly that it is not possible. Actually, this world is made in such a way that even hard you try, you cannot bring peace in this world. But she was adamant. She says, no, हम होंगे कामयाब एक दिन. You know this philosophy, ना, हम होंगे कामयाब एक दिन. Then we have to work hard. Then Prabhupada gave him a very strong reply. And a very strong reply, and that reply was, he gave him an example. He said, if you go in your toilet and you just go and put a spray there or scent there. So by just putting a scent for a moment, will it destroy the bad odor of that place? This thing struck her very hard. She said, how can a person give an example like this on the whole proposal of mine, which is meant to bring the peace into the world? Well, how can you say like that? So many people can say, come on, Mullah, it can be a little more softer than this. But Prabhupada is explaining him, was explaining her, sorry, that this is not the way, this is not the way, this is not the way, it won't work. And somehow she was quite adamant on it. And this thing actually flabbergasted her. And then she stopped. And then there was a pin drop silence in the room. And the disciples of Prabhupada, even Harishwarika was sitting there, he was also seeing at the face of Prabhupada what happened now. And what will happen now? Like, it's like just smashing on the face of the person. Then everything literally cooled down. Because my yogini just smiled and she gave us a smile and she laughed a little bit. And she also agreed. That is true. Your example is quite suiting. And now we should think about it. The disciples also were just laughing a little bit and then they both left. And when they left, then Prabhupada gave one more thing. And the disciples said, Prabhupada, when you set this example now, this was a very strong one. And ultimately, what was wrong with her proposal? Then Prabhupada explained her again the same story that it won't work that way. Then Prabhupada gave him an example. See, world peace is what? It can only be brought when we preach the Sankirtan Krishna. Because the Sankirtan has the power to actually work on the mind of people. And when they're internally very peaceful now, then only you can expect peace outside. If internally that peace is not there, no, external peace will not work at all. How much money, how much arrangement, how much conferences, how much talks you do, the people who are proposing this, they themselves have to actually experience this peace. If you don't experience peace in your life, it's very difficult to tell to others. That's why Krishna also says in the second chapter, na, Nasti buddhira yuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana na cha bhavata shanti ashantasya kutasya sukha. Because the happiness comes after the peace has been achieved. So it has to go both ways. And the last thing I will just end the class. It says Nasti buddhira yuktasya na cha yuktasya bhavana. So till the time, if you don't engage in emotions, thoughts, feelings, along with our own intelligence and understanding is Krishna consciousness now, what will happen? Both have to be aligned. The intelligence and the mind. There are certain things in life which are quite rational. There are certain things in life which are based on feelings. If the rationality is not supporting the emotions of the heart, then there is a very strong inner conflict which exists. And sometimes we feel also. What happens sometimes when we hear these philosophies and we feel that come on, the intelligence is quite nicely addressed. The philosophy is quite nice. There should be something to experience also better in life. So that experience, that feeling, when it is not properly fulfilled by the service of Krishna, it is very difficult to get that peace in life. And that's why the concept what I started was yoga arudha and yoga arikshu that won't be complete if that experience of peace is not in there. So nasti buddhirayuktasya na chayukta subhavana na cha bhaveta shantira shantasya tatasya. So there has to be a very deep internal peace in life which can actually take us to the next step of happiness. And try to understand that happiness is quite not possible in life till the time we don't understand what is the cause of distress in our life. Okay, so that's the summary substance which I wanted to share with all of you. It's a quite deep and philosophical topic, but I thought to keep it as simple as possible. Hare Krishna, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So now you have any questions, any doubts, any reflection you want to share, or anything you want to share? Yes. No. Okay, good. What I wanted to say was sometimes when we have a, see the mind or the intelligence or whatever way you say, there are emotional faculty of our life where we carry our emotions. Also, there is certain things which are very rational in nature. But when these two are not aligned, and these two alignment can only happen in Krishna consciousness. That's what Krishna is speaking in this verse. Till the time we don't engage our emotions and our intelligence, both in the service of Krishna, it is very difficult to keep them in the same frequency, same pace. And when they are on two different directions, normally what happens, I'll tell you. When we are quite devotional, we have a good amount of feeling for Krishna, and we want to uh, practice Krishna consciousness very deep to the heart. But when we don't understand philosophy, so sometimes we are not able to defend our emotions. Very simply, let's suppose if I put up a tilak and I go on the street, and somebody can say, hey, come on, put up this on your head. You are quite sentimental person. So what will happen? You will be, oh, come on, what is speaking? I heard in my class, the devotees told me, it is good for me. So I don't have a sufficient intelligence to defend it. So that time what happens? The inner peace grows. And it's other way around also. When you're too rational and you don't have that emotional side of the story, the heart becomes so hard that it's difficult to get absorbed in Krishna. So both has to be taken together. You have to bring the emotional side and the intelligence in both. And that can only be resolved in Krishna consciousness. Outside it won't be get resolved. Because always you'll find the science will never give you the emotional side of the story. And arts will never give you the rational side of the story. That's the subject we study. So that's why only Krishna consciousness can summarize that. Yes, anything else? Yes, sir.
Giving the precious time. The question that I had is the knowledge that we have to realize and how do we realize that it's too simple. But if the sadhana has some rules, that should have some rules, it will eventually sink. So how to counter those difficulties we practice in our sadhana? Like,
But you see, what I have seen, any difficulty in the path of bhakti can be very easily solved just by one simple formula of association of devotees. If you are in a sangha, like the sangha is there today, so such a sangha if you are there, na, any problem we face na, can be very easily solved. So we have to take the shelter very strongly. Even Mana Shiksha, Sri Raghunath Goswami recommends in the verse 5th or 6th, if you get it, you can read through it. He explains it there that when a sadhaka is walking on a royal highway of bhakti, so there are six enemies. Huh? The lust, the anger, the greed. All these are like a robbers on the street, on the royal road of bhakti. So they would be attacking you when you travel. So at that time, what recommendation he gives is we should call out the help of devotees. We should really have such devotees in our life who can help us in those difficult times. So that is the recommendation he gives. See, such he's giving that recommendation at that level when actually you are performing the Rag Bhajan, the Bhajan, Raganuga Bhajan for Krishna. That time also this challenges come. To take the help of devotees. So what to talk about the initial stages? When in initial stages some challenges come up, we should immediately run and take shelter of some devotee whom you have trust, whom you actually have a good amount of faith upon. And take it guidance and shelter. So that will help. Okay? Yeah.
Association of devotees are always present when we are alone. So even without the constant association of devotees, have the constant association.
Okay. Even you have a constant association devotees now, even if after that there are certain, I will say, shortcomings, right, in the practice of bhakti, don't get discouraged. The first thing is that never get discouraged. In the path of bhakti, never get discouraged because the nature will be discouraging like anything. It says it's walking on the spiritual path is like walking on a razor edge. When the words in the one of the Upanishads say, Uttishta, Jagrat, Prapya, Varanimodak, Shurasya Dhara, Nishka, Duratya, Durgam Patastat, Tavalyo Vadanti. So it's not an easy path. It's not an easy path. Even the Upanishads says it's not an easy path. So give an attempt, try your best. And even if some shortcomings happens, always remember that Krishna is Patit Pavan. And more than Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Patit Pavan. He is going to give you many opportunities to rise again. Till the time you say to Krishna, because you say to Krishna that I don't want your shelter anymore. That time it will be difficult. But till the time your desire is there to take the shelter of Krishna and his devotees now, do mind my words, Krishna will always help. Always. Because that's the nature of Krishna. It's like helping every one of us. So never be discouraged. It's all the trick of mind. It will make you so moral sometimes that it will never let you take the shelter of devotees. He said, "You are so much helping me. They're so nice. They're so kind. How much fallen I am. How much, what I will say to myself. I'm not worthy of associating with them." It is such a level the mind says arguments. I'm not worthy of taking their association. They're so elevated and pure souls. I'm such a condemned soul. I should not take their association only. There's a trick. There's a trick of Maya. Don't listen to mind. Just take help of somebody. That will help you. Okay, anything more? Anything else?
I have a question. Is that you, as you went through your youth, your mind also went through many temptations naturally. You were also doing BTech alone away from family. So, is there one thing that personally helped you a lot to deal with the temptations of the mind? Anything from your personal journey?
Even in the past, even in the present, it's not saying the present challenge are not there. It's still there. Because it's not that mind just came out of my body. It's still inside me. And it's also listening me right now. It's just a next door neighbor. So it's a way to control it. As a student, what I felt was if I completed my 16 rounds as early as possible, it helped me a lot. And I actually used to feel like any day, like however hectic schedule was, if I don't chant my 16 rounds in the morning now, the whole day the mind was like so much disturbed. It was just like what I'll say, fresh like anything. That was such a mind was there. So what I used to do was try to complete my chanting as early as possible. And I had a very natural inclination to read. It was my only motivation to come to Krishna consciousness to be very true with you. But I was looking after some many answers in my life. Because I have read many versions of Gita. It was all boring. No, I mean, no substance into it, literally speaking, just big things. So that was like one strong part of the story. But no, still the mind was still existing. So that was one thing which helped me a lot. And another thing was my own introspection of helped me a lot. Because when I used to just go into the details of the problems or the why the mind is struggling, what the reason, why it is feeling like that. When you used to reason your own emotions now, when you try to reason your own emotions, you actually dwell into the Shastras more deeply. Because Shastras actually answer the deepest thought of your mind. If you go into deep of it, then you find. And obviously association matters a lot. Because the association gives us such a strength that you are able to apply what you read. Because just the theory doesn't work. So I literally feel all these three combinations help me. If I chant my rounds early, if I read philosophy, try to introspect what I read in my own life, and staying in association so that I can get a strength to do that. Because alone, एकाकी हमारा नहीं पाएगा. It's true. With anyone, I will say. Alone, it's very difficult to do that. So it's better have to have some association. That way, the journey is continuing, and in way, you need all of your prayers so that I can also fight with my mind. Okay? Anything else? Anyone? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Now is the second best part of the day, Prashad. Okay, so if you like listening to Vaikuntha, come again. He has another session at 8:30, so we have to do it quickly and we have to do it thrice. Okay, so loudly, and each time it has to be louder. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Vaikuntha Vraj Prabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for taking our time. And today, he was in Gurgaon. From Gurgaon, he's come here and now he's going for another session. So, this is how a Bhakti Yogi lives. Live example in front of all of us.
Thank you so much. This was very nice being with all of you for the first time.